Have you ever noticed how the exact same song can make you absolutely weep one day, but then, I don't know, a week later it just feels like completely ignorable background
Oh,
noise?
yeah, totally.
Or like think about a physical place, right? You walk out your front door and the landscape feels really expansive and full of possibility on a Tuesday morning.
Right.
But then by Friday, that exact same street feels empty or almost like oppressive.
Yeah, it's a completely universal human experience.
Yeah.
And it really points to this massive crack in how we are taught to understand reality. Because we walk around assuming the world is this fixed, objective thing.
Like we're just moving through it.
Exactly. Like we're just actors on a pre-built stage, you know?
And that assumption is pretty much the entire focus of today's deep dive. We are exploring a super fascinating premise, a question that really gets to the architecture of consciousness itself.
It really does.
And the question is, does the object create the state, or does the state attract the object?
Which is such a massive question.
Yeah, it is. And we are going to pull from Western philosophy, Eastern cosmology, and even modern neuroscience to try and answer this fundamental chicken or egg kind of puzzle. Like, do we react to reality or do we actually emit it?
Well, to even begin answering that, we really have to start by dismantling what we usually call the surface account of reality.
Right.
Because this is the mechanistic illusion that we all live under most of the time.
The behaviorist model,
Yeah.
right? The idea that input precedes output.
Exactly. Object first, mind second, feeling third.
So, like, you see a beautiful sunset, that's the object.
Sure.
Your mind processes the light, and then you feel a sense of awe, which is the state. It just feels like pure cause and effect.
And we rely on that model because, I mean, it is practically very useful. It forms the entire basis of our everyday common sense.
Yeah, I mean, if a specific thing, say a certain type of food or hanging out with a specific person makes you feel good, the logical conclusion is that you should organize your life to acquire more of those good objects.
Yes. And aggressively avoid the bad ones.
Which is pretty much how we all spend our entire lives, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
trying to constantly arrange the furniture of our reality so we can finally feel okay.
That's a great way to put it. Arranging the furniture.
Yeah.
But there is a glaring foundational flaw in that way of thinking.
Which is?
The world simply does not deliver uniform effects.
Yeah.
Like, if the object, the sunset, the song, the job, were truly the primary cause of your feeling,
Mhm.
its effects would be consistent for everyone, all the time.
Oh, I see.
Because if the object holds the power, it should act like a physical law. Like a drop of water makes you wet.
Right. It doesn't matter who you are or what mood you're in.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or what happened to you yesterday. Water is wet.
Mm.
But psychological and emotional objects, they just do not behave like water.
No, they don't.
I mean, the piece of music that completely devastates one person leaves another person sitting right next to them entirely unmoved.
Okay, let me see if I can visualize this for you, the listener. We usually treat ourselves like thermometers, right? We think we're just passively registering the temperature of the room, the objects around us. But this inconsistency, the fact that the same song has two entirely different effects, suggests we might actually be the thermostat.
Ooh, I like that. Yes.
Like we have a pre-existing interior condition that dictates what we even let in or how we process it.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. The inconsistency literally proves there is something antecedent to the object.
Something that comes first.
Right. The internal state is already there, waiting. So if the object isn't the true starting point of the feeling, we have to figure out what is actually setting the temperature.
And to do that, we have to look at the engine driving us toward these objects in the first place, which is desire.
Exactly.
Because if we are constantly chasing things, we need to know where that chase begins. And I know we have some pretty wild ideas from Plato about this.
Oh, Plato built his entire philosophy of love around it. In his symposium, through the character of Diotima, who is teaching Socrates, Plato argues that eros, which we usually translate as desire or longing, is not a reaction to a beautiful object you just stumble across in the physical world.
Wait, hold on. So if I see a beautiful painting and suddenly want it, Plato is saying I'm not actually reacting to the paint on the canvas.
He would say you are reacting to a memory.
A memory.
Yeah. Plato believed the soul has a true divine origin. So when you feel longing for a beautiful object, that longing is actually the soul remembering its source. It is an orientation toward what he calls the beautiful itself.
Oh, wow. So the longing was already inside me. And the object, the painting, or even a person just happened to have a tiny partial reflection of that ultimate goal.
Exactly. The object just triggers the pre-existing mechanism. And this whole idea of looking for a lost piece of yourself out in the world, it didn't stop with Plato.
Right, it keeps going.
Centuries later, Hegel takes this concept of desire and turns it into an active, almost aggressive pursuit.
Okay, how so?
Well, for Hegel, desire, and he uses the German word Begierde here, is the active process through which consciousness reaches out to find itself reflected back in the physical world.
Man, that is heavy. Consciousness reaches out to find itself.
Think about it as the ultimate search for self-recognition. The desiring subject doesn't just want to possess a car or a house. It wants to see its own nature, its own spirit or status, mirrored in what it encounters.
Okay, but if we are just looking for ourselves in these objects, why do we usually feel so empty once we finally get the thing we wanted? Like, is the object just failing to reflect us properly?
That exact sense of emptiness is what Jacques Lacan built his entire psychoanalytic theory around.
Oh, Lacan, yeah.
He makes this brilliant distinction between a biological need and a structural desire.
Okay, break that down for us.
So a need has a specific object, and it can actually be satisfied. Like you physically starving, you eat an apple, the need is gone.
Right, the tank is full.
Exactly. But desire circles an absence. It circles a gap in our psychological structure that no physical object can actually fill.
So it's like a bottomless pit.
Kind of, yeah. Lacan calls the object of our desire the objet petit a, and it is always just a proxy.
A stand-in.
Right. It's a stand-in for a sense of wholeness that we feel we have lost, but that honestly never actually existed as a physical object in the first place.
So to bring this into everyday life for you listening, when you finally get that massive promotion at work, you know, the dopamine hits, you feel amazing.
Oh, yeah. Best day ever.
But then 2 weeks later, you're sitting in your new office, the thrill is totally gone, and you just find yourself staring at the CEO's office. Lacan is basically saying the promotion didn't satisfy you because you never actually wanted the job title. You were just trying to plug a structural hole inside yourself.
That is the tragic comedy of human experience right there. You are chasing a phantom. The objects appear to promise ultimate satisfaction, but they inherently cannot deliver it.
Because they're just proxies.
Exactly. So what happens? Desire just moves the goalposts to the next object. The internal state, that desiring structure, that feeling of lack, completely perceives whatever object you currently think will fix it.
All right, so psychology and Western philosophy show us how this works inside the human mind, right? The desire comes before the object. But what happens if we zoom out?
Oh, we have to zoom out.
Because some traditions argue this isn't just about how our brains work. They claim this is how the entire universe works, that the state precedes the object cosmologically.
Yes. We are moving from the structure of the mind to the fabric of reality itself. Esoteric traditions propose that consciousness is not a passive receiver waiting to be acted upon by a separate physical world.
It's not just sitting there.
No, it is an active field. It is constantly emitting a frequency that actually organizes what enters its range of perception.
Like the Hermetic principle of resonance, right? Like attracts like.
Exactly.
But I feel like we need to be super careful here because this isn't just the superficial, you know, think happy thoughts and get $1 million kind of thing.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's a structural claim about what you are physically capable of experiencing. The idea is that you can only perceive what you have a frequency for.
Right.
So things that do not match your internal state at all might physically exist in the room with you, but they literally don't register on your radar.
And Vedantic non-dualism gives us a very clear mechanism for how this filtering works.
Oh, I love the Vedantic perspective on this.
It's fascinating.
Wow.
In Vedanta, the ultimate reality is Brahman, which is this infinite boundless field of pure being and potential. But the individual soul obviously doesn't experience infinity. It experiences a very specific, limited human life.
Because it's looking through a filter.
Exactly, through a filter of what they call samskaras. These are basically accumulated tendencies and impressions.
Psychological scar tissue almost.
That's a great way to put it. Every reaction you have ever had leaves a tiny imprint.
Okay, but how does that actually dictate what manifests in my life, though?
So imagine you are wearing highly complex polarized sunglasses.
Okay, I'm wearing the sunglasses.
The samskaras are the polarization. If you have deeply accumulated samskaras around, let's say, fear or betrayal, those impressions literally bend the incoming light of that infinite potential.
Wow.
They dictate which parts of reality are allowed to manifest as your personal experience.
True.
So you don't see the objective world. You see your samskaras reflected back at you.
Oh, so if I have a deeply ingrained samskara of being rejected, I will literally walk into a room of 50 friendly people, and my consciousness will just hyper-fixate on the one single person who happens to be scowling at me.
Exactly. And then your internal state will claim, see, the world is hostile.
Oh, man.
When in fact, your state organized that encounter.
That's wild.
And Kashmir Shaivism takes this principle to its absolute extreme limit. There's a teaching called the Prajabhinardayam, which translates to the heart of recognition.
Heart of recognition, okay.
It teaches that consciousness is not something happening in the world. Consciousness is happening as the world.
Okay, I'm gonna get you to break that down for me. Because how can my consciousness be happening as the world?
Think of it like a dream. When you are asleep and dreaming, you might encounter a terrifying monster, right? And you run away in a total panic.
Yeah.
In the dream, you are absolutely convinced that the monster is a separate object. You think it's acting upon you, creating your state of fear.
Right, I'm just the victim of the nightmare.
But when you wake up, what do you realize? Your own consciousness was playing the part of the monster.
Oh.
It was also playing the part of the terrified runner. And it was the ground you were running on.
The whole thing was me.
The entire environment was an emission of your own mind. And Kashmir Shaivism says waking reality operates on the exact same architecture, just a bit denser.
Wait, really?
Yeah. When our awareness is contracted, we feel like victims of circumstance, subjected to external objects. But expanded consciousness recognizes that it is the source of those very appearances.
So human consciousness is really less like a microphone recording the world and way more like a radio dial.
I love the radio analogy.
Yeah, like the other stations, the other realities, the friendly people in the room, the opportunities, they exist all around you right now. They're broadcasting loud and clear, but they literally do not register on your dashboard until you tune your internal frequency to match them.
Right, you just cannot hear classical music if your dial is locked onto heavy metal.
Which brings up the million-dollar practical question, I think.
Let's hear it.
If I realize I'm stuck on a bad station, if I am emitting a state of anxiety or lack, how do I actually turn the dial? Like, how do I change my frequency without just totally faking it?
This leads us straight into the embodied practices of Shakti Tantra. In this framework, we encounter the divine feminine principle, Shakti.
Shakti, right.
And Shakti isn't a godlike force pushing planets around from the outside. Shakti is the world. It is the dynamic, self-expressing power of consciousness in motion.
And the key thing here is that she doesn't wait for external conditions in order to feel something, right?
Yeah.
Her feeling is the condition that produces reality.
Yes, exactly.
The universe doesn't trigger her. She generates the universe through her own awareness.
Which implies something incredibly radical for you, the individual listening. If the state is primary, then cultivating your internal state is not just a warm-up exercise for encountering the reality you want.
It is the encounter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The mechanism of bringing form into reality relies on feeling the truth of something before it materially appears. In Tantra, they call this working at the level of rasa.
Rasa meaning the felt essence or like the interior taste of a quality?
Yes. You aren't just conceptually affirming something in your head, you are literally tasting its essence in your body.
Okay, let's make this super practical. Imagine you are standing in a massive, totally unmoving line at the grocery store.
The worst.
Yeah, and you are incredibly annoyed. You are just emitting impatience. How do you practice rasa here? Because I feel like I really need to push back on behalf of anyone who thinks this sounds like toxic positivity.
Oh, sure.
Because I can't just stand in a terrible line, paste a fake smile on my face, and scream internally, I am experiencing the essence of speed and efficiency. You know, how is finding this rasa different from just faking a feeling?
Well, forced positivity is a complete distortion of this practice. When you fake a smile in that grocery store line, you are mimicking the surface behavior of a state without actually occupying the frequency.
Right. I'm just putting a nice coat of paint on top of pure rage.
Exactly. And the underlying frequency of rage or lack is what the universe is actually responding to.
So it knows you're faking it.
Pretty much. Authentic interior attunement working with rasa requires really rigorous honesty. In that grocery line, you don't pretend the line is fast.
Okay.
Instead, you drop the resistance. You locate the genuine feeling tone of peace or stillness within your own body, completely independent of the external environment. You inhabit the state of stillness right now where you stand.
So the radio dial was tuned to I'm trapped and annoyed, and I actively tune it to I am entirely at peace in my own body, regardless of what the cashier is doing.
Yes. And when you make that authentic internal shift, you can watch how the external environment subtly changes in response to you.
Okay, This is all incredibly profound from a mystical standpoint. But I have to ask, does this hold up to modern science? Like, does an ancient mystical framework actually match our current understanding of the brain?
The alignment is actually staggering.
Really?
Yeah, everything we just discussed mirrors a major movement in modern neuroscience called predictive coding.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for us.
Yeah.
Because we usually think our eyes are like cameras, right? Just taking objective video of the world and sending it to the brain.
That is the classical model, and it is entirely wrong.
Wow, entirely wrong.
Think about it. The brain sits in a pitch-black vault inside your skull. It has no direct access to the outside world. All it ever gets are electrical signals.
Right, just data.
So to survive, the brain has evolved into a prediction machine. It actually constructs your perception of reality based on prior experience, expectation, and your current emotional state, before the sensory data even fully arrives.
Hold on. You're saying my brain guesses what is in the room, builds a hallucination of it, and then just uses my eyes to check if it guessed right.
That is exactly how predictive processing works.
Hmm.
A great physical example of this is the blind spot in your vision.
Oh, right.
Where the optic nerve connects to your retina, there are no photoreceptors. So you technically have a black hole in your field of vision right now. But you don't see a black hole, do you?
No, I just see a full room.
Because your brain paints over the hole. It literally invents the missing visual data based on what it expects to be there.
That is crazy.
And this applies to much more than just optical illusions. Think about how trauma rewires the brain. If someone has a severe history of trauma, their brain's predictive model is constantly expecting danger.
So their state is tuned to threat.
Yes, and studies show that when you show them a photograph of a completely neutral face, their visual cortex will physically process that face as hostile or angry.
Wait, really? Their visual cortex actually sees an angry face.
Yes, their internal state literally altered the physical appearance of the object. They did not react to the object. Their state created the encounter.
That perfectly bridges the gap back to the esoteric idea of resonance. Your interior state dictates what you draw into your proximity.
Exactly.
Let's look at the emotional extremes of this. Think about grief, right? When you are in deep grief, it genuinely feels like the whole world is just amplifying your loss.
Yeah, it does.
Every song on the radio is sad. You walk down a street, and every single object reminds you of the person you lost. Your internal state is acting like a magnet, pulling all matching conditions to the forefront of your perception.
And on the flip side, consider this state of creative flow.
Oh, yeah.
When you are deeply inspired and vibrating with that energy, suddenly it feels like the exact resources, the perfect ideas, or the right people just miraculously appear in your path.
Right, like magic.
But it's not magic. Your brain's predictive models are tuned to opportunity, so you instantly recognize resources that a contracted brain would just filter out.
Which brings us to a really crucial distinction between wanting and knowing. Because if we are trying to use this in our own lives, we really have to understand the difference.
Yes, this is so important.
Wanting operates from a state of absence, right?
It does. When you say, I want that, you are essentially confirming the gap between you and the object. You are constantly broadcasting the frequency of not having.
But knowing operates from resonance. It inhabits the frequency as if the boundary between you and the object has already dissolved.
And this is where we move from theory into daily practical application.
Yeah.
The ultimate practical question you should ask yourself is not, how do I get the object?
Okay, what is it?
The question is, what state does the object represent to me? And can I become genuinely present to that state right now?
Let's give the listener a real-world scenario to apply this. Let's say you're prepping for a massive, heavily anxiety-inducing meeting at work tomorrow. The old behaviorist model says you should obsess over getting a good outcome, the object, so that you can finally feel relief. But under this new paradigm, you should stop and ask yourself what that good outcome actually represents.
Correct. You ask, what feeling am I hoping that meeting will give me? Maybe it represents confidence, maybe it represents safety or validation.
And your actual job, your real preparation, is to find a way to authentically embody that specific state of safety or confidence right now, sitting in your living room.
Exactly.
Right.
Because if you can authentically occupy that state before you ever walk into the boardroom, the relationship between you and the external event fundamentally changes.
Wow.
You have shifted the field. You are no longer waiting for the meeting's outcome to give you permission to feel safe.
You are emitting safety into the room rather than walking in empty, trying to extract safety from your boss.
Yes. And by emitting that state, your predictive brain, your samskaras, your resonance, they all align to perceive and interact with the reality that matches your safety.
Man, it really is a complete paradigm shift. Let's
Yeah.
summarize the journey we've been on for a second.
Sure.
We started with the surface illusion. The idea that you are just a passive receiver, like a thermometer, just standing around waiting for reality to happen to you, waiting for the right object to trigger the right feeling.
But whether we look at the origin of desire in Western philosophy, or the cosmological filters of Eastern mysticism, or even the predictive coding of modern neuroscience, the evidence points the other way.
It totally does.
You are an active field.
Yeah.
You are constantly participating in what appears.
The state was always first. The state recognizes itself in the object.
Beautifully said.
So we want to challenge you, listening to this right now, to look at your own life today.
Yeah, try it out.
The next time you find yourself intensely desiring a specific object or, a specific text back or a specific outcome, hit pause. Ask yourself, what internal frequency am I currently emitting?
Right.
Am I broadcasting the anxiety of lack, or am I tuning the dial to the essence of what I actually want?
It requires a profound level of self-inquiry. But it changes absolutely everything about how you interact with the world.
It really does. But, it also leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought to mull over.
Whoa.
Yeah, if our internal state attracts and filters our external reality, what happens when two people with completely opposing, heavily charged internal states interact with each other?
Oh, wow. That is the ultimate friction of human existence right there.
Right. Like, if I am emitting pure abundance and you are emitting pure hostility, whose emitted reality becomes the shared physical world in that room?
That's a great question.
Is objective reality just a constant negotiation of colliding frequencies? It's definitely something to think about the next time you put on a song and realize that whether it makes you weep or whether it just fades into the background, the music didn't change.
Yeah.
You did.